life, your term show.
Alrighty, I am live with Ben Settle, who's a bit of a legend in the direct response marketing world. I don't know if you know that, Ben, but you've got a cult-like following, I would say, of direct response marketers. Some really big names that people on the show might recognize, like Russell Brunson and Dan Kennedy, like people, Brian Kurtz, have all admired your work, highly regard you as a direct response copywriter and marketer. And so it's really cool to have you on the show. For those who don't know what direct response marketing that listen to us, do you want to give them a quick description, Ben?
Direct response marketing?
Yes, how it differs.
Well, first of all, it's very trackable. You do something, you either get sales or you don't. You're not waiting around for the Goodyear blimp to be up there and you might get a sale or something, which is weird because it seems like the internet's returning to that, which is kind of funny. A lot of people are more worried about their branding and all this than they are actual getting sales. And so direct response is you're just trying to get a direct response. You're trying to get a response from whatever you're using, a sale, an opt-in, whatever it is you want them to do. And that is completely different than just to put something out there and hopefully it sticks in people's minds and hopefully they follow me and, oh, I'm a startup and, oh, look at my logo and all that. Nobody cares, right? But you know for a fact if it's working or not with direct response.
Did you learn this the hard way yourself? Like, how did you get into this world of direct response? And were you in the marketing world beforehand? Were you an entrepreneur? What's your story, Ben?
Well, when I graduated college, I wanted to get into advertising. And it's funny because I was thinking back about not too long ago that I was trying to get in all the agencies, right? Big and small, and they weren't doing any direct response. There was one place I applied at that was doing direct response, but I wasn't smart enough to understand what they were telling me, or I would have pursued it much harder. But I didn't have any direct experience in advertising or anything. I just kind of got in. Like most people, you find the Dan Kennedys and then you find the Gary Halberts and then you find the Jay Abrahams and, John Carlton and whoever else. And it's just a rabbit hole that I've never emerged from.
Yeah. So did you start with your own business though and using direct response, or did you literally join a direct response marketing firm? How did you actually get started in it?
So I got into MLM and I did absolutely nothing for like 4 years except just spin my wheels. I was terrible at it, right? Because this was pre-internet. Well, there was an internet. But back then, they were still telling you to go talk to everyone within 3 feet, go to the post office, talk to everybody, ask them, do they keep their options open for ways to make money and all that kind of crap, which I suck at. And one day I just stumbled into direct response marketing through a book called The 7 Lost Secrets of Success that a guy named Joe Vitale wrote. And it was in fact, that was a book of the month that the MLM company I was in sent me. And it's about a guy named Bruce Barton. And Bruce Barton is like this old school contemporary advertising guy of John Caples. In fact, he's one of the B's in BBDO, the big agency. And nobody really knows who he is anymore. But back then, you couldn't go anywhere without hearing this guy's name. And that's what the book is about, just about that guy. And there's a story in there that takes place during, I think, 1919. It was because that's when he was at his peak. And the economy was in shambles, I think, from World War I or something like that. And this guy came to his office in Chicago, I think, and said, Bruce, I need help. I need help. I know how to get a job. Nobody's hiring. He goes, I'm in sales. I'm a sales manager. I'm actually really well known for writing sales letters, which was my first exposure to reading this book. And Bruce Barton takes this guy to the window and says, look at all these empty buildings, or you say empty buildings, but look at all these buildings out there. You're supposed to be good at writing sales letters. Why don't you write a letter selling them on hiring you? And that was kind of my, red pill moment. I'm like, whoa. I don't have to do this talking everybody's stuff. What is this? I thought copyright was the, copyright office, right? The little symbol I had no idea what this was. And so that's what got me into it. And that is just, that led me everywhere to, quite frankly, onto this show now. It's because of that.
Yeah. So you said you're not good at the direct selling or the in-person selling. That's surprising to me, just considering of how good of a salesperson you are via email.
No, I can do it now, but back then it was really bad. I was terrible. I didn't know anything about anything. I'm not a natural at any of this. I had to learn it the hard way. I had to learn through a lot of failure, a lot of mistakes, and just a lot of hard work. I'm not like one of these guys who can just go up and talk to someone and sell them something. I wish I had that skill, but I don't.
Interesting. Well, you think you would have like a strength in it and like you'd pursue that strength because you already had it there and then got into it more, but you just, I guess, grinded yourself into a sharpened tool, I guess.
I didn't have any training that I have now. I hadn't been introduced to the concepts that I've been introduced since then. All the sales training was basically based on force, not leverage, if that makes sense. It was all just go in there, do the numbers, call, sell, push this and do this objection, answer that question, manipulate this and do that. Now it's the opposite. If I'm selling something or just talking to someone, I want them to do something, it's totally different now. Now I realize it's about them and getting in their world and actually trying to get a no from them. Like really try to get, actually try to challenge them a little bit, let them know the facts, let them know that this may not be for them, but let me hear, let's see what it is for you guys. Whatever I'd be selling or talking about, this might not be something you have any interest in, and that's okay. Just tell me no at any minute and I'll leave. Right? You give them the permission to say no. It's a old school Jim Campism, right? You give them permission to say no, and people are more likely to at least hear you out. So I didn't understand stuff like that. I didn't understand getting in their heads and getting in their world and talking their language, right? I'm sitting there trying to overpower people with benefits, and you need this, you need that, and here's the research on this and all that. And like, for example, I was selling supplements. It didn't occur to me to say, well, to find people, for example, who maybe they had a skin problem and look for them first, because they have the problem, instead of going to people who don't and trying to impose it upon them. Like, I didn't know anything about sales. Now it's different. Now I would look for people who have a need, look for the sick, right? And then try to sell them whatever it is. And that to me is 90% of the battle. It's not like the slick talking and all that.
Really? You'd say 90% of the battle is just finding your customer avatar and then getting in front of that avatar.
Oh, absolutely. And I think now with the internet, it's even more so. There's that, I don't know, Ed Meyer, his name, who had the 40-40-20 thing, right? Dan Kennedy kind of upgraded it to, I think, 50-30-20, where 50% of the battle is just the list, right? Or the traffic. And then 30% is the offer. And then maybe 20% is the sales copy, the selling. I think it's more like 80% now is the list. Like, if you find the right person at the right time with the right problem, they're open to hearing what you have to say. Now it's your sale to lose at that point. And that's why I like getting people on a list and doing direct marketing, because you can be there every day. And maybe they're not ready today, but tomorrow they might be. And here I am.
So how do you get the right person on the list?
Well,
if that's the 80%.
That's the curation, right? And I'm very cognizant of that. I don't do a lot of cold advertising, for example, for this very reason. It's not that you can't get curated leads. It depends what market you're in. I'm not in, for example, real estate, where it's very simple in a way. Like, they either want a house or they don't, right? Like, it's not, you don't have to convince them they need a house, right? like they're looking for it, and that's good. I'm more in the business improvement thing, where people just kind of happen to stumble upon me, and I put things out there. I do a lot of content, and my name, I guess, is floating around, and they come to me that way. So they're already kind of pre-sold. So they wouldn't be on my list if they didn't want to hear what I have to say. Now, whether I have something to say they want to hear, I don't know. But I got them every day until they leave. So I'll try from all kinds of angles.
Huh. So at this point, it's your just reputation that's getting people onto your list, I guess.
Yeah, and I don't do a lot of teaching on list building. In fact, I have a book about list building. But even the sales letter practically tells them don't to buy it, because I'm not the list guy. And everything that I use is, like, what we're doing here is is one way I do it, right? Like, some people will listen to this. Maybe some people will be like, I want to know more about this guy, and they'll come find me. Most people are like, I don't want to hear what this guy has to say, and they'll leave. But the few that come find me probably opt into the list, get the free email players issue, stay on the list for a while, hopefully. Maybe they like what I have to say. Maybe I have something to sell that they'll want. Maybe not. I don't know. But to me, it's a long game. I just want to keep people on there and consuming stuff, and eventually you get them.
Okay. So how do you think about, you're known for your daily emails. How do you think about the balance between selling versus building a relationship, keeping them on there, providing value, versus also selling and trying to extract some value as well for yourself, right? Obviously, you're providing a ton of value, and it's how you built your reputation, but you need to make a living. You need to extract value at a certain point. So how do you balance the two?
Yeah, okay, so what I do is not necessarily something people want to hear. But, when it comes to email, you'll hear sell the click, right? Like, that's as old as internet marketing, sell the click. It goes back to the 90s probably. And there's nothing wrong with it. Absolutely nothing wrong with it. I sell the relationship in every email. I'm not actually pushing a sale on anybody. I do have something for sale if they want it, but my first goal is to get them a little bit more bonded to me, right? I want to let them get to know me a little more. It's based on this guy, Leo Burnett. Do you know who Leo Burnett was? The advertiser?
I don't.
Okay. So he was one of the original like Mad Men era guys. He started his agency, I think, in 1937. He was a madman, but he was in Chicago, so he wasn't technically on Madison Avenue, but he was one of the guys. And he used to talk about this concept of friendly familiarity, where in his analogy, I think this was in the 1950s, and he was talking to an outdoor advertising group or something. And he talked about how, imagine you have two guys every day, they're waiting for the train. And they meet,
yes.
Right? And they meet at the same place, and one's an insurance salesman. Now, he's not pushing insurance on anybody. He's just going to work. And he meets this guy every day, and they just chit chat and they get to know each other a little bit, and they're just familiar with each other. Now, when that one guy has a need for insurance or knows somebody who needs insurance, and something comes up, there's no one else he's going to buy it from but that guy, because he's familiar with them. He's not going to haggle over price. Oh, can you get a best rate? I mean, maybe he would, but I doubt it. It's friendly familiarity. So the daily email is friendly familiarity. I'm there every day. And I'm not a big fan of this not selling people stuff, though. I know that people will do that. They think, well, I need to give value. I would argue by not selling to someone, or at least giving them somewhere to go that to buy, or gives them the next step that might lead to a sale, something that moves them forward, is doing them a disservice, right? And I'm going to use kind of this is admittedly, it's not exactly the analogy, that it's not perfect. It's not literal, but I say, imagine that you have a really bad urinary tract infection. Like you're pissing razor blades. You're in pain, man. You've never felt this kind of pain in your life. And you go to the doctor and you get a prescription, and you go down to the pharmacy, and you can't do it online. You have to go to the pharmacy and you give it to them, and the pharmacy says, oh man, this sucks. Well, can I get a prescription? Oh, no. This is a goodwill day today. We are not selling anything. But let me educate you about this problem. Let me tell you about why you have this problem, how you fix the problem. Tomorrow we'll sell you something, right? Now, I know that's a little exaggerated, but that's kind of the thought. Like, they have a need now. So at least let them know they could, if they wanted to, get to the next step.
Yeah. You mentioned pissing razor blades, like an extreme pain. Is that kind of what you want to be looking for with selling? Like people with an extreme pain that your solution, your expertise, your product, your service can fulfill and stop that pain? Is that the biggest driver? Is it pain?
Pain is ideal, but there's some markets where they're not fitting. Right? I mean, I've sold in health markets, and it's way easier than what I do now. Okay, it's way. I mean, it's like if they have a health, they want to lose weight. That's a very simple thing, and you just come in every day and tell stories about people who suffer in all kinds of ways, not just physically, but socially and psychologically. I think the best-selling weight loss email in fact, I know this was my highest selling one, because I let some other people use it who are much bigger in the weight loss niche, and he used it, and he gave me this long testimony. He said, Ben, this thing just killed it against all these affiliates and everything. And it wasn't even barely about weight loss. It was just telling a story that I had read in a forum, and I was just retelling it about this woman who was overweight, suffering from, like, she's trying, man. She's exercising, she's eating right, she's starving herself, she's doing everything she can, a busy life, multiple kids. And she's got like these people on Facebook who are purposely tagging her heavy Facebook pics to try to keep her down. I mean, women are nasty to each other, man. And this is real life. This is a real story. And so I wrote an email about that. I mean, that thing barely even mentions the product. It's like, at the end, I think it was like, look, I have an ebook that can help with your weight loss or something like that. Go ahead and check it out. And then the sales letter does the rest from there. But all I did was give them a vision of the problem. And it wasn't my vision. It was the market. Like, I could never have a copywriter would never have thought to write that. I never would have thought to write that. They told me exactly what to write. And I mean, and I wrote all kinds of emails like that. I just let the market say it. But it's not always easy. Like where I sell now to my main list, there's so many different kinds of people on my list, man, with so many different problems. But what they all want is to make money. They all want to have a business that makes better money, that has security. Now they're all scared about AI. It's like everybody's worst nightmare. So writing about that's like an engagement farm right now. It won't always be that way, but you might as well ride the wave while it's there. And so, yeah, if you can find their pains, it's great. But sometimes you kind of got to build up the pain. Sometimes you got to bring up things and see how they react.
Mm-hmm. You're in the business of writing emails and have worked in all sorts of different niches. If you're starting a business, are you finding a pain point first and then starting a business around that with the solution? Or like, how do you think about jumping from business to business, selling to different niches? I guess if you're already in a business, do you just need to drill down, identify that exact avatar, those pain points, really look for maybe some of those like painful lived experiences, like the woman with the weight loss on Facebook, stuff like that?
I mean, ideally, in an ideal world, that's exactly what you do. You look for a pain, you look for a market first, right? And I would say this, not even just a market, but a market that you viscerally get bothered by the fact that they're going through whatever they're going through. I mean, for example, I've talked to people with autistic children. And when I tell them about direct marketing, because I have this product called Clientless Copywriter, so I've done webinars about this and everything. Yeah. And one of the people who runs that company is AWAI. She was telling me about a special needs child she has. And she was like, whoa, this, yeah. She feels in her gut, like, I want to serve them. It's not like, oh, I want to make money from them. It's like, I could serve this. It bothers me that they have this problem. And if you have that visceral reaction that like, man, this really, like, you get it, right? And you almost feel it with them, or maybe you do feel it with them. You don't need to be motivated. You don't need to you don't need an accountability group. You don't need any of that, because you're just going to get up and attack this, man. You're going to be going after it. That is the ideal way to do it.
So that's what you think you should find and then pursue, is something you like viscerally want to help people with?
Yeah, as long as there's a market, right? There still has to be enough people there that are buying things, and it helps if they're already buying via direct response. But I don't know how many virgin markets there are anymore, in 2025. I don't think there's very many. I mean, 100 years ago, you could just say how to lose weight, right? And you get a bunch of buyers. And unfortunately, it's not like that anymore.
Yes, things are very saturated. But then is it down to finding niches within niches? Like, okay, there's weight loss, but then there's about 1,000,001 different niches you could drill down into within just the weight loss category, right?
People will do that, and they'll say that, like, where they say the riches are in the niches and all that. Yeah, I'm not against it. I think that you just have to find that whoever it is. So, for example, one of my companies is options trade. We coach options trading to people. Okay. And, this is a wide group of business people, right? And they all have different, some are retiring, some trying to catch up on retirement because they fell behind in their 50s and they've never even started. There's some people who just want to get fat rich. I mean, there's some people who just want to have some more security in case their business goes down or something happens or the government comes at them, right? Everybody has different reasons for doing it, but there's not like niching down. It's kind of like, okay, we have this way of trading, and here's what it does, and here's how it can work. And we try to hit it from as many different points as we can. And as long as one of those points, somebody responds to it, they'll usually get in. But we don't have it niched down to like just one type of person. Like, are you an options trader already? Like, most of our best students have never even, what an option was, right? That's not what they're buying. They're buying something else, and it's not the thing. The thing just gets them what they want. So I'm not saying it's bad to niche down, and if you can do it, you can do it. I think it's great, but I don't ignore these wide markets either. I really don't, because you can start wide, and then now you have little subcultures that you can sell to within your customer base.
Hey everyone, before we dive back into the podcast, I've got a quick shout out about the Your Life, Your Terms report. This is Tom's weekly newsletter where he and Nick share real stories, experiences, and powerful insights to help you live life on your terms. Each week, Tom breaks down the economy, real estate, macro trends, and Bitcoin, and gives you actionable steps to make these insights work for you. No fluff, no vague predictions, just a clear path to thriving no matter what's going on in the world. Tens of thousands of Canadians are already getting the real information they need to level up their lives every week. I can honestly say it's the only newsletter that I've stayed subscribed to for years. It delivers real value that keeps me coming back for more. Join us and start getting the insights and tools to create the life you want, plus entertaining and inspiring stories from Tom and Nick along the way. Sign up for free at rockstarinnercircle.com/get-started and start living life on your terms. That's rockstarinnercircle.com/get-started. Your first step to living life on your terms.
So how do you think about the selling then? Are you just trying to target different angles all the time? Yeah. Like for the near retiree versus the young guy trying to make a side hustle, etc.?
Yeah, and it's not as black and white as some niches, right? It's not like the dating niche where they want dates. You know what I mean? It's just, this is all kinds of different pain points, desires, insecurities, and we just hit them from all different directions. And it only takes one email. It only takes one comment. It takes one webinar. It takes one question answered on a webinar sometimes, and suddenly, okay, I'm in. And you just got to keep going after it. I think most people give up too soon. I think they do in their sales copy too. They have the Dan Kennedy likes to talk about the unique selling proposition, which Rasa Reeves, and he created that for TV because you only had 30 seconds. They had to walk away with something. But online, and maybe not offline as much, but online, you have unlimited space. So why not hit as many bullets as you can, as many fascinations as you can, tell as many stories as you want. As long as they're engaging and interesting, you're not going to lose them. In fact, they may keep coming back to reread it, and then actually buy. I've seen that happen a lot of times.
Yeah. You're so deep in this world, Ben, of email and copy and marketing and direct response. What about just somebody who's listening? They're an accountant, they're a real estate agent, they're a real estate investor, they're whatever small business, coach, insurance salesman. Like, how important is copy? Like, I know you live this every day, but for the average entrepreneur listening that maybe hasn't gone down the rabbit hole as you have with direct response or copy or email or list building, like, how important is this stuff? I
think it's important based on how saturated you are with competition who's using it.
Okay.
There's a lot, like, okay, my area here. So one of the companies I have ownership in is a newspaper, a newspaper, in kind of a regional newspaper. And so I write an article there. My very first article was talking about a real estate agent in this area, and my county is very small. It's the smallest county in the state of Oregon. And I think maybe there's 30,000 people in this whole county. I don't know, maybe, give or take. This woman works for Remax. She's like, there's nothing special about her advertising. There's nothing. In fact, when I tried to buy a house here, she was like almost hard to get a hold of. It was like worthless. I went and find another real estate person. But this is the highest selling one. She does something like, sells like $60 million a year in real estate. You're like, how the hell does she do this? Well, she's everywhere. She is literally everywhere. They interviewed her in another newspaper a few years back. She spends like $25,000 a month on advertising. Nobody's spending that. She's outspending everyone. So you go to the grocery store, you see her face on the shopping cart seats. Like, you see her everywhere. And there's no special call to action. There's no real direct response other than a text to text her. There's no reason, there's no USP, right? The people around here have not figured this out, which is amazing to me. But now in her case, she doesn't need to do much, right? But if she was probably in New York or LA or something, she'd have to have more game than that. And the copy would be much more important.
So the more saturated your market, the more competitive, just the more you got to put effort in and stand out and sell yourself and your services.
Yeah, but it also helps to understand the pains. So you mentioned accountants, right? One of my most successful students, now he's not necessarily an accountant, but he helps people. I'm sure he's an accountant. He's a CPA, but like, his thing is he helps you get out of IRS problems. And every time I mention this guy anywhere, he says he gets leads. He goes, Ben, there's a lot of people on your list with IRS problems, right? Because it's a problem for a lot of people. So whatever the profession is, find what the pains are, man. Find what they're really, really frustrated by and go based on that. I remember during the whole pandemic thing, the plumber, the guy I hire usually for my plumbing, he was very smart about this. When nobody could get toilet paper, he's like advertising, what do they call those things? You put them on the UDA, whatever they're called, the thing they put on your toilet and it shoots water up you and you don't have to wipe it.
Bidet.
Yeah. He was selling bidets. Right. And I was like, he was booked out, man, for like months. Like, he was like, he found what they were all worried about. And what was everyone worried about? They couldn't get toilet paper. So there he is,
having a clean butt.
Yeah. And he wasn't doing great advertising. He was just literally in the local Facebook group said it, and he just got inundated because he had what they wanted.
To your point, which is a pain point.
Yes. Yeah.
So right now, with what you help people, do you want to just say what your main business is, your main kind of offer that you help people with, just in case?
My main thing is I teach, I would like to say just email, but that's what people find me for. But it's just copywriting and email. We'll just say that's my main thing. But within that, I teach a lot of stuff.
Yeah, and that's email players?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a print newsletter, email players.
Okay. So teaching these concepts that we're talking about and stuff, and sharing your experience. But what was I going to ask? Do you have a deep, visceral motivation to do that, to help kind of small business owners, entrepreneurs with this? Is that why you've pursued it?
I pursued it because I was originally a freelancer, and I did freelancing for 9 years, and I absolutely hated it. I really hated it. All I wanted to do is be my own client. And I was very lucky, and I mean very lucky early on, to discover Matt Fury, who I consider the king of email, right? I think he was just, this dude, he opened so many doors. So many people are using email and they don't even realize he was the reason they're actually doing email right now. He had that kind of influence. And real early on, I was on his list, and he was selling like fitness stuff. And he would brag. He goes, I'm in China right now as I write this email. You know what? I'm not even going to edit this email. I'm going to go write it out. He was just so arrogant about it. And I remember thinking, I got this copywriting skill. I want that, man. I don't want to work with clients. And so the visceral reaction was my own for myself at first. And then when I got out of it, I was like, man, I actually really want to help these guys. I want to help people who want to be their own, I can help freelancers, obviously. But ultimately, I just want to make life easier on people so they know email, they know copywriting, and they're going to outdo, hopefully, everyone they go against. AI has made this very easy because now everybody's scared of that, right? That's a temporary. I don't think this will last much longer before it kind of fizzles on the copywriting side. But right now, I mean, they're terrified. They're getting fired because their clients are just firing them now because they'd rather use AI, which my prediction is that won't last. But until then, what are they going to do? Well, they should be their own client, work themselves into their own schedule, send their own offer to their own list. And I talk a lot about that in email players lately because I think it's very important.
Why email, Ben? Why have you settled on email as your medium? And have you ever tried other mediums?
Yeah, my first copywriting was actually direct mail. In the MLM I was in, I used direct mail to generate my own leads toward the end of my time in MLM, and it did work. But I found the business model flawed, right? It's not for me. You don't control the offer, you don't control the product. The corporate's trying to tell you what you can say and you can't say. And nowadays, you don't even have the ways of the lead gen you used to have back then, right? But this was 2002. I got into copywriting, and a few years later, that's when I discovered Matt Fury. And I mean, I was just like, this guy is not sitting here spending his whole day writing 20-page sales letters. He's writing a 2-page email, and he's having a great time doing it. It's fun, and I want that. And so I got into it. This was 2008, I think, and I haven't looked back. And to me, email is the eighth wonder of the world right now for marketing. Do I think it'll always be this way? No. I think eventually it's going to not. I don't know what's going to replace it. I don't know when. I think it'll be a while from now because email is still the number one thing. In fact, there was a study finds at the website Study Finds, where they were saying the average person is on 500 email lists and has at least 2 email addresses. So I don't think it's going anywhere anytime soon. But the principles that make it work, I have applied it to social media. I've applied it to direct mail. I've applied it to community building. So I think it all applies to everything we're going to use anyway. But again, I don't know in my lifetime if it's going to be less effective. It's a little less effective now because everybody's doing it. Because we can all blame Matt Fury for that. He's got us all doing it. But that's a good thing, though. I think the world needs better emails that are serving people, that are giving them good options for thinking differently, selling good offers, and hopefully the people selling the good stuff override all the crap out there. And we'll see what happens. That's one of my goals, man. I just want to have people out there writing better emails.
Yeah. What do you mean by better emails?
Emails people want to read and buy from. A lot of people worry about deliverability in the email world. Oh, am I getting my emails delivered? Gmail did this. Apple Mail did that. Open rates, I have never really cared about them, but now they're absolutely almost worthless. And one of my companies is a software company, Berserker Mail. So I see this from both sides now. I see it from the user side. I see it from the platform side. I see it from the marketing side. And there's just it's not as easy to have attribution to what sold what. But I have found that when it comes to deliverability, if you're doing those two things right, now you need to have your settings right, your DMARC and all the other stuff. But if you are selling, or if you're writing emails people want to read, selling offers they want to buy, or leading them to a place that they want to go, which is hopefully a problem that you can solve, all these things with deliverability just kind of go away. Because even if you end up in spam, they're still looking for you. I have lost count of how many times over the years someone would buy something from me and say, I almost didn't buy this because you were in spam. Well, yeah, you're looking for me in spam, man. I mean, that's the whole point. In some ways, you probably have less competition in the spam folder, So, yeah, because they're tuning in to read my stuff for whatever reason. And that is, to me, is like, that's everything. If you got people looking forward to reading your emails, and you have something that they want or can improve their life somehow, and you get them on the right day, man, it's just inevitable. You're going to get the sale eventually. If they don't leave, you're going to get them eventually. I've had people on my list who have sent me screenshots of their Gmail. Look, Ben, I've been on your list 9,000 emails, and I finally bought, right? Yeah. Now, that's not the norm, okay? But it is kind of funny. If you get every day, you get to come back, you get to come back, you get to come back. It's a very forgiving media. You mess up today, you're back there tomorrow. So yeah, I think like I said, I think it's the eighth wonder of the world for marketing.
Yeah, just on that, we've had people that have been on our list for literally a decade, or 8, 9, 10 years, and they finally reach out and they come to one of our free training classes and they sign up as a Rockstar member, and they're like, I've been on your list for 12 years, 10 years, 7 years. I've read every single email, and I'm just finally in a place in my life where I want to learn how to invest in real estate, right? Which is kind of our business. And it's just to your point, it's just consistent follow-up. So we've sent a weekly email every week ever since this business has been around. So about 15 years. Now you send a daily email.
Yeah.
So how the heck do you keep up with that? How do you come up with new ideas, new content? Don't exhaust the list. I'm sure you're maybe sick of hearing that, or, you've gone over this a million times. So I apologize, Ben. I know you've gone over this a million times. But yeah, can I get your insight? Yeah, because it's fascinating what you do.
Well, okay. So let me give Matt Fury some more credit. I'm going to give him some love on this call.
We just send this recording to him.
He's kind of dropped out. He's kind of just living in Montana, having fun. He's earned it, let's face it. But he still teaches it and everything. And I buy his print newsletter and all that. But I first heard him call it, he goes, emails talk radio. Now, Rush Limbaugh, for example, or Michael Savage, or whoever someone listens to, Howard Stern, okay, whoever it is, they don't exhaust their audience by showing up every day. And they're on there for 3 hours, right?
Yeah.
They want to hear them. And this goes back to writing emails people want to read. Now, the question is, well, how do you come up with stuff to say every day? And I would argue that if you know your market, you're never going to run out of stuff to say. There's a lot of people that they talk about brainstorming using like AI and all that. And my thought is, I've always brainstormed with the market. I brainstorm my list. Every time you send an email out, you're going to get some kind of reaction, right? For every action, there's a reaction. And when you send an email out, you're going to get replies. Hopefully you get some trolls. If you're not getting trolls, you're probably not pushing hard enough, right? I love getting hate mail. That's the best stuff. Because then I just use that as fodder for more emails. Or you get no response, you get no sales, you get no replies. Well, that's feedback in and of itself, right? So maybe you don't want to talk about that anymore. There's this concept in Kung Fu called Chi Sao. It's sticking hands. I think that's the way it's like Mandarin or something or whatever it is. And it means you're not sparring, but you're in contact with the guy, with the other person. Yeah. And you're just trying to feel an opening. And they're trying to feel an opening on you. And you're basically learning to feel and interpret what they're going to do before they do it. So you see these like old ancient, martial artists, and they look like they're moving fast, but really they're not moving fast at all. But they just know what you're going to do before you're going to do it. It's very fascinating. And I have found that same principle works with email. You're there every day. You start getting a feel for what they respond to. Nobody has ever asked for a single offer that I sell. No, not a single one has someone said, I wish you had a product about XYZ. Not in mass. I mean, maybe one or two people will say something. For example, I have a book called El Bembo Press about my newsletter and book publishing model. Russell Brunson literally asked me if I had something like that. So that was good feedback, okay? But he was like the only one. No one's ever asked me. I never would have thought to write it necessarily. But people ask without asking. They'll say things. They'll reference things. They'll ask questions that link back to a concept or an idea or something where you're like, In fact, my highest selling book is called Copy Slacker. It's about copywriting. Now, there's a million copywriting books out there. I never really, at the time, thought, what's the point? You know, it's just like you go get Dan Kennedy's Ultimate Sales Letter, you're fine, or break their advertising. But people kept asking, I don't want to write a world-class ad. I'm not an A-list copywriter. I just want to write something that's good enough. I get it out there and make sales. And Ken McCarthy in an email once at the time said, Ben has the ultimate slacker lifestyle. He just wakes up, writes some direct response copy, and he's done. And my brain just put the two things together, copy slacker, and I didn't think of that. I was paying attention to what the market was saying and what Ken was saying and questions that were coming in. And probably for many years, this was just kind of building up in my subconscious, and there it was. And I can say that about every single book I sell and offer, for the most part, came about that way. It just, people were asking without asking. Email Players, for example. Originally, it was a course. It was a course I sold, but I had to keep updating the damn thing because I'm learning new stuff every day myself. And I was also finding out there were stuff that I was doing that only worked for me, not other people, because I have certain attributes. Everybody has their own attributes. Well, I didn't want to take that stuff out. So I said, you know what, screw this. I'm just going to make this an ongoing newsletter. And, I did that for several years before I kind of evolved it into what it is now, which I barely talk about email in it. I mean, it's Email Players, but most issues aren't about email, but they are about concepts that will make someone's emails better. And so that's how these things just kind of flow, and they just go, and people just got to go with it, not try to have it all figured out at once. Just start with a problem or a visceral reaction and a visceral need to want to help certain people. Start with that, and it'll just start growing on its own. That's been my experience.
Yeah, I've never thought of it like that, like a dynamic kind of relationship with the list. And using their feedback. I guess it's like a conversation with one of many, but I guess because it's through a computer, I just never interpreted it that way.
Well, it's like talk radio. Talk radio, they have the callers calling in. Talk radio is very much a direct response friendly format, right? They do a little talking, there's a commercial. Email is the same thing. You're doing a little talking, now here's a commercial. And I have built this out into world building actually over the last several years. And since like 2014, I've been talking about world building because I write fiction too. And my first novel was out there, and I got this email from this lady on my list. She goes, I work with New York. I'm in New York. I work with these editors. She goes, I just want to know, I don't like your emails. She told me, I don't like your emails, but I liked your book. It had great world building and pacing. And I said, I think I've been doing this in my business too. You build a world people want to come into and don't want to leave. And this can be done through email, social media, a podcast like yours, right? It's just you're giving them a reason to be in your world and only focus on you and hopefully ignore all the nonsense out there.
Okay. And just to give them a reason, like you just have to give value? It's like, do you have to share your personality? Do you have to be vulnerable? Like, how do you actually maintain that over time? How do you consistently deliver something that other people want to be a part of?
This is a very deep this is a deep thing. The best thing I could recommend people do is to study great world builders. So, for example, Mr. Rogers was a great world builder, right? Now, another great world builder was Johnny Carson. Now, you can find two different people. Right? They're both totally different. Dr. Seuss was a good world builder. Tolkien was a good world builder. There's a bunch. George Lucas, great world builder, right? Yeah. And they're all different. And they're all coming at it from different points of view. They're different intentions. What they're doing is they created a format. If you really look at those guys and other great world builders, they create a format. And it's funny how many of them lasted at least 30 years. The dead ones lasted 30 years. I don't know why it works out that way, but that's how you've done it. Nothing changed about Mr. Rogers for 30 years, other than like he took a 5-year break or something. Johnny Carson show, 30 years, right? Star Wars has been over 30 years. And so on and on and on. But they create a format and they stick with it. And the format, I think, is what keeps people in there and not wanting to leave. And just being a consistent person, a consistent message. And, the world is always changing. There's always something to talk about. There's always some problem to be solved. You just become that person who's solving the problem and talking about it. It's funny because Mr. Rogers, I've done a lot of research on him, especially since I had my son, because now I'm watching it with him. And it is amazing to me. That guy gave no value, nothing. He never gave any tips. He gave no tips. All he did was talk about problems. That's it. He just talked about the problems and their feelings. And that was it. He never solved anything. He never pretended to solve anything. He never claimed to solve anything. But people went there because this is a guy, his mom told him when he was young, said, look, when the world starts going crazy and everybody's scared, just look for the helpers. Look for who the helpers are and be one of them. And that's, I think, the whole core of it, man. Be the helper in your niche, in your market, the person they look to for strength, for solutions, even just to read what you have on your mind about the things they're going through. And I think that simplifies things. You don't have to worry about, do I need to be vulnerable? Do I need to write about this? Do I need to give value? No, I mean, that'll just happen. Whatever you need to do it, it'll happen. But start with that. How can I be the helper? How can I serve these people? What can I say today that's going to be worth their time? It's going to be fun to write and fun for them to read, and just talk about whatever. And that is never going to be like a set format. In email players, I give various ways of like approaching it. But the reality is, I mean, I just do whatever's on my mind now. You know, you were asking like, how do you come up with all this content? And it's like, I don't know how to turn my brain off, man. I had to start a Facebook group recently, and I hate Facebook, but I had to, somewhere I could just put the overflow of ideas, right? And then some of that stuff now is going to become emails later. Because I'm like, oh, that was actually pretty good. So I'll just take that and put it into an email later. Might go into an email players issue, might go into a book or a product. I'm recording a course right now that's audio, and there's just all these ideas come together. The ideas beget ideas, thoughts beget thoughts, writing begets writing. The more you do it, the more easier it gets.
Yeah. It sounds like you're in a groove. Like you're in a groove, and you're obviously very passionate about what you do and have built your life that way, I guess, designed your life that way, but you're clearly in some sort of a mental groove where you're always thinking about it.
Oh, constantly. I mean, it helps to do a lot of walking. Now, this is, I don't want to call it a tactic, but my God, man, like the more walking I do, I've gotten entire book ideas. I've written entire email players issues by talking into my phone's recorder while I'm walking, right? I've solved problems constantly while walking. Walking to me it should be like an internet marketing. You can't really make an offer out of it, but it kuld be an offer. I could literally write it on a 3x5 card and it'd be the most valuable thing they ever have, in my opinion.
Yeah. Okay. So to go back to world building and being that person that shows up every day and brings your world, whether it's Johnny Carson or Mr. Rogers or The Simpsons was another one that popped up when you were talking about it, right? Just consistent, same thing, same format, same characters, constantly different things. South Park's another one. If you're an accountant, if you're a real estate agent, if you're an insurance salesman, how are you building that world?
Well, you can start by having an email list. Now, I'm very biased when I say that, but it's true. First of all, probably none of their competition has an email list, for one thing. I mean, most people just go into Facebook and their local groups and stuff and post stuff, which is fine, by the way. For lead gen, that's a great way to get people on your email list, actually. Instead of, hey, call me up, just say, hey, get on my email list. I have tips about whatever it is. I have plumbing tips. I have tips for buying a house. Feel free to forward them to your friends. I have tips how not to get screwed over by a mortgage broker. I have tips about, insurance scams. I have tips about how to get the best rates. I have tips about how insurance monies will squeeze you for money. Like, you become their advocate, whatever it is you're doing. I don't deal with a lot of local businesses, so I don't have a lot of examples of this, but it's all the same thing. It's all the same thing. It's no different for the insurance broker as it is for, selling ebooks. I mean, it's all the same thing. You get them on a list, you mail them every day. Now, every offer you create, every person you reference, every service you reference or use, because, they all become characters and people in your world. There's so many people who are so familiar with the people I do business with because I'm always talking about them. Or there's certain people in my family, or when my dog was alive, I mean, she was probably more popular than I was. You talk about these things and you don't force it. It just comes up. I talk about Stefania, my wife, all the time, right? Here's a story about something we were talking about, this, that, and the other. I have entire premiums and bonuses I give with certain products that are just backroom chats with me and her talking about some marketing thing, ranting about whatever without editing. And it's just like, whoa, that's like some inside baseball talk. And that's what people like, man. They want to be a part of it. Outsiders want to become insiders. And so let them in. But, you got to have some rules, some standards. Don't be afraid to kick people out if they get out of line or if they try to troll you or be snarky and all that. Have standards. You don't have to. This whole idea the customer's always right is nonsense. I think we all know that, or they wouldn't. If they were right, why do they need us, right? So, so that's the way I look at it. But yeah, world building is just building it brick by brick. My favorite analogy for this is C.S. Lewis. So when he wrote The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, he did not have everything figured out. He didn't know he was going to write 7 books. He didn't know he was going to create anything. He just had this like image in his head of this like satire, whatever they're called, running around in the woods with presents. And then he just started with that. And now suddenly he's talking about the White Witch and Aslan the Lion. And now there's another book. And, now look what it's turned into. It's a huge IP. It's great. It's a franchise. But it just started with an idea. And you don't have to have it all figured out. I started Email Players, man. I didn't know it was going to turn. I just thought it'd be fun to teach it. And then suddenly now I've got all these books and I got all these things and all this stuff going on and people wanting to do this and that and people find it. It's like you can't control it. You just create a format, follow it, bring people in, talk to them every day, be that helper, serve them, and do right by them. I know this sounds very Pollyannish, man, but it's like that's it. Like you do that right, you're going to write good copy. You're going to write good emails. You're going to say the right things. You're not going to screw anyone over. You're going to be someone they can trust. They may not buy. That's okay. I don't want to force anyone to do it. I'm not trying to pressure anyone. They'll be back. Like you said, you had people 10 years, right? They'll buy when they're ready. They will buy when they're ready. And if you try to force it, you're not really helping them, right? But you got to give them the opportunity every day because they may be ready tomorrow, right? So that's how I look at it.
So your email, your daily email, it's like the Ben Settle talk show. Yeah. And then every now and then there's a commercial.
Every day there's a commercial. Like
every day. So there's always a commercial in the talk show. Always
it's not always something they have to buy. Sometimes I will plug my Facebook group, for example. Sometimes I'll plug the free mobile app for my fiction. Sometimes I'll plug the newspaper, the Oregon Eagle newspaper. Sometimes I'll plug my options trading, the company with the free calls and everything. But most of the time I'm intentionally selling a specific offer, twice a month, and then Email Players toward the end of the month. And then everything in between, it could be getting a free test drive of Berserker Mail. It's not always like they have to spend money every day, but I want to get them in the world. I want them moving around in there. I want them connecting with me in different spots and even in different companies that all kind of connect with each other. So it's like this round robin, so to speak, of connected businesses and connected offers. And it entrenches people in there. They hopefully feel like they can trust me. And if they're ready for certain things, they'll do it. If not, that's okay. They'll just be around and everything's fine.
It's really interesting because some of them are like, Email Players available to kind of anybody on the list, no matter where, but like something like the Oregon newspaper, like you'll throw that in there and you'll still be plugging that, even though that's such like a hyper local thing.
It is, but if they get on the email list, maybe one day they want to buy advertising in there, right? You know what I mean? I don't have anything to do with that, but it's a newspaper. It's offline. People in my market talk about how they should do more offline marketing. I haven't plugged it for that or anything. I only talk about maybe once a month, maybe once every other month, because when I write an article, I'll just reprint it and put it into an email just to do it. The articles are still relevant to everybody. It's actually more along the lines of the questions you've been asking me. It's more for them, actually, because that's who's here. It's not internet marketers. It's the plumbers. It's the insurance person. It's the accountant and all that. So
looking to apply those concepts to their business.
Absolutely. Yes. And eventually I'm going to take all the articles I've been writing when I've done enough of them and turn into like a Kindle book. So that'll be a whole other, I would say, doorway into the world, right? It's like the wardrobe in Narnia was the doorway in. You want to put these doorways up so people can get in there and find you, which is your opt-in page, basically. And, the more people you can funnel to your opt-in page, the better. A lot of people will fight me on what I'm about to say, but it makes me no less correct, okay? That is the only purpose, in my opinion, of a website is to build an email list. That's it, or a list of some kind, right? Huh. And like people will say, well, no, it's for credibility. It's to demonstrate. It's to make people, see what I got. And all that's fine. But what does that serve to do? Hopefully get onto your email list. Get them in your world. Get them in the door. Like that's my philosophy on that. So everything that I do, I like to recycle it if possible and put it on Kindle. I have a lot of books on Kindle, which are just stuff I've already written in the past, and I just put it together. It's about a topic. And, do they get the leads they used to back in the heyday of Amazon? No. I mean, unfortunately, man, the Kindle, that ship sailed about 10 years ago, but man, you could get a lot of leads back then. But even now, they still trickle in. They get this ebook, they see the link in there. So that's one of many examples. But I think people should get their URL out there that leads people to their email list as many different places as they can.
Mm-hmm. These principles you're speaking to about world building and building relationship, showing up every day, I guess you could apply them to any form of media social media, podcast, YouTube channel. You just have a preference for email for very specific reason. So why that preference? We've repeatedly talked about. So why specifically email?
Email to me is even I'm not a big statistics guy, but even statistically, it is the highest ROI you could pretty much get. Right. Okay. It's like direct selling ROI. There are some exceptions. I mean, there are people who do different. I'm not saying everybody, but for the average person, they can do it. They can put an opt-in page up. They have if they're doing email right, they don't have all this noise around them like social media. There's some good direct mail people that do it, but it's becoming it's getting harder. We just did a direct mail campaign for our low stress options, man. The game has changed like radically from even 10 years ago. The prices are higher. The logistics are different. The lists are not as good. I'm not saying this is going to be the case for every business, but at least for what we were doing, you have to curate harder. You're going to get like crappier leads and all this stuff. But email is so easy. They get on there and now you have them. As long as you don't bore them, they're not going to go anywhere. You become a lot of people say, people use Netflix to, for their entertainment and you're competing with Netflix. It's very true. Well, my philosophy is why not you be the Netflix in their lives? At least every day at the same time or around the same time. Sending an email at the same time, I don't do it anymore because everybody kept copying my time. And then we're all sending emails at the same freaking time. It's just like defeats the purpose. So I ran them up. But we're talking about the accountant or the plumber or whatever. Man, just pick the same time every day. And they're tuning in to hear about you. Go ahead and tell them a story about something that happened at your last client you were dealing with, right? And turn it into a lesson, a reason why they should come and contact you or get on your list, or they're already on your list, but to come in and call you or come in for a free this or, whatever your call to action is. And email is just so fast, man. It's just so easy. There's not a lot of barriers, and people are used to getting them. And if you're the one email they want to get, that's even better.
Yeah. So I've unsubscribed to the majority of every email newsletter I've ever been on. Some of the very few that I love to consistently open and tune into are local small businesses that I just have a direct relationship with. And I just want to hear from those people, to your point. Like one is a local farm where I buy a quarter cow from once every month and a half to 2 months. But he talks, it's a regenerative farm. And so he talks about how he's moving the chicken pens. And it's interesting what the cows do every day when he moves them to the new pasture of grass. Like this one cow is always kind of slacking behind old Betsy. And I don't know if it's like just a romanticization of the farm life or something, but I just love getting these emails because I want to feel connected to the food, and I like supporting this small agriculture regenerative farming system, right?
And as long as they're not boring you and they're telling you interesting stuff, why would you go anywhere?
Exactly. But so here's the thing, Ben. So it's a weekly email. I don't know if I was getting a daily email because I'm just busy. As much as I like the emails, I don't know if I would open it. But you and only a few other kind of copy guys are the one guys that send direct emails, but you guys are so good at it that it's like, oh yeah, well, I'm gonna open it because these guys are like the best, and I'm like there to learn as much as I am to like follow along with the life of Ben. Or there's a guy, Justin Goff, I know Justin, big fan of his daily email and stuff. He's great at it as well. So sorry, I'm kind of rambling here, but what are your thoughts on that?
I think that you have to understand that nobody reads all their emails, but they do read the important ones. And I have no illusions, and I'm being read every day. There's this thing where, and I think this is very true, where the most important part of the email is the from line, right? Is this someone I know I can trust and want to hear from?
True.
The next part, though, you got to give them a subject line that they want to open. If I write a boring subject line, I don't care how much they like me. Some will open it just because it's me, but they're looking for reasons still to hopefully not read you. Right?
It's actually true. That is true. Yeah.
So this is where the copywriting comes in. Now you got to kind of know how to do that part. And I don't think it's hard. I like it. Obviously I'm biased with it, but I don't have any illusions. Not everyone's opening every email. And that's okay, right? I don't open every email of every list I'm on. But what if something comes in that's like, oh, actually I do want to hear about that. I'm going to hear it. I'm not going to just unsubscribe from them. And so I'm on very few lists too, quite frankly. Very few. But the ones I'm on, I want to get it. And I wish some of them would actually mail more, if anything.
Okay. So provide value. Like if you're the funny plumber, if you're sharing the crazy stories, the pipe bursting, the poo flying everywhere.
Good stuff, man. That is good stuff. But that you're talking about like some harrowing experiences somebody had that we all know we could have. And we're reading that, man. That's horror. Horror movies and horror fiction are like the best copywriting training ever. I've often said, I've said this for years, that first Paranormal Activity movie would be the best. Like, churches should play that, because at the end, there's no solution. Everybody's scared out of their minds, and there's only one solution that they could pitch at the end, and it would be perfect, right? And that horror movies are awesome, man. Tell horror stories. I remember I was at this event I was speaking at, and there's a VIP event or something, and they were telling their stories up there, and I was one of the guys critiquing their stories. And this one woman went on and on about her low energy. I have low energy, okay. But she just threw this throwaway story that, I had this low energy, and I was driving my kid to school, and I was dozing off, and I almost slammed into the back of a car with a little kid in the back. And I'm like, stop, man. That's the only story you need to tell. Man. Forget all the statistics. Forget all the trying to, sell people on high energy. No. I was so tired that I almost killed this little infant. And I knew I had to change. Like that kind of stuff, right? Horror stories. They're not always going to be like that horrific. But I'm just saying, the pipe bursting is horrific. The person who got screwed over by, the IRS or something, that sticks in your head. Or they got this tax bill landed on that they weren't expecting for $200,000, and they didn't know how to pay it. Like, that's a story that someone's going to lean in and read, especially if you have the solution for it.
Yeah, so interesting, man. So again, back to those pain points. Absolutely, man. It's all, I'm telling you, horror stories. It is one of the best things anyone can do. Just look at how they do horror stories. It's just, they don't get better, man. They just get a little worse and a little worse and a little worse. And you're just telling this story and you're leaning in, reading it. And you're like, man, like I have to, one of my highest selling emails, well, I don't say highest selling, certainly one of the most responsive ones, is like 8 pages long. Actually, I think it's 12-page long email. And it's selling low stress options. And I'm just walking them through my business partner's story, which is just completely insanely like the most pain. Talk about pain. Like the guy was just in the worst kind of pain and health problems and almost dying and all this stuff happening. And you're just reading this like, man, this is horrifying. And you don't really identify with it because you don't have all the problems he has, but you do realize this could happen to me. And so you just keep reading and you keep reading. And I didn't make up a single word of it. I interviewed him at my house. I transcribed it. I turned it into a sales letter and then later an email. And it's all real. Real stories from real people are far more interesting than anything we can make up. Okay. So in your email, how often are you putting a story, prioritizing a story? Not every day. Some people say you need to tell a story every day. I kind of just feel it out. Like, what do I feel like writing about? Sometimes you can just write a checklist of stuff not to do, or a checklist of interesting ideas for them, or, checklists. Checklists are great because we're so like, our brains love it. Like, nobody writes a grocery story when they go to the store. They write a checklist, right? It's very fast to get through. Yeah. It can be very useful. They'll sometimes print them out because they're that useful, but you're not really teaching them. They still need you for whatever it is you're talking about. So they're more likely to buy. Okay. So just feeling it out again, I guess. What's your routine? Do you wake up and just write an email first thing in the morning? It's not really, because I tend to write my emails in advance these days because I have so many different projects going on. So like right now I get up and I'm just editing audio for this course I've created. But starting tomorrow, I am going to start writing about 4 emails a day for the end of this month's campaign to sell the next month's email players issue. And then I kind of write them in advance. So I don't really do like every day. I like writing. I actually get very irritable if I don't do some kind of writing every day. So I tend to write. That's why I need that Facebook group. And so I'll write stuff in there just off the cuff. And then I'll realize that can make a good future email. So I'll take that. I'll look at I have like a different file, like a text file for every month of the year till the end of the year. And I'll just, I got all my July emails written. Okay, I'll put this in August. And so I'm constantly adding to it like that. And, I try to make it as easy and fast as I can, but I enjoy the process too. I think it's important. People are going to write emails. You got to enjoy it. Like if you're not enjoying it, no one's going to enjoy reading it. And why not enjoy it? Writing is not this hard. Like people think they got to like slit their wrist and bleed on the page. And it's not that hard. It's an email. 500 words, 300 words. It's not that big of a deal. Is your advice just to be yourself? Like, you have a very particular style that you're known for, contrarian, kind of can be a little bit like in your face, or like, I don't really care what you think, whatever, like, so sorry, you said Matt Fury was his name?
Yeah, Matt Fury is great. And
you were saying you were inspired by his arrogant kind of writing.
I was inspired by his lifestyle more than anything. And I don't try to copy him or anything. He's a very distinct personality, no question about it. Try to copy him, I would just look like a buffoon. No, I actually, one of the things he teaches is write like you talk. And I've been doing that for years, but now I even take it farther. I kind of just write my thought patterns. I just write what I think. And it isn't always going to be a perfectly structured anything. I mean, my emails are full of run-on sentences. They're full of passive voice sometimes. They're full of terrible grammar. Oftentimes, they're not perfect. They're like me. I'm a flawed guy when I talk. I'm a flawed guy. So my writing is very flawed in emails. I don't do that with sales pages. I think those have to be a little better, way better. But emails, it's just they're getting to know you. So I kind of just write like I think, and then maybe I'll tighten it up a little bit or something, so it's not too insane. But that's how I look, and that's why it's easy. Like, what are you thinking? Well, just write it down. Some people, they're not really good at the writing side of things, but they can talk really well. So it's perfectly okay to talk, record, transcribe. I mean, you can do it on Rev for $1 or whatever, and smooth it out into an email. Very easy.
Yeah. If somebody looked at my chat GPT, they would just see like my run-on rambling, recordings and stuff. And it's like weird because it's like how I think, and I can just freely express it that way. And it wouldn't make for it doesn't make for the nicest read, but I see what you mean. Like, people just want the real you. And I guess, should you not overthink this stuff? You should just be yourself and just friggin' write like you talk, write like you think, like you're saying. Like, just don't worry about all these fascinations and all these things at a certain point.
Don't worry about for email. Don't worry about any of that stuff. You want to study copywriting, and then you'll get better at it, and you incorporate it in. But it's more important to just write with all your flaws. Those, I'm a big fan. I've learned a lot from the comic book world. When I was a teenager, I was a big comic book guy, and I used to study the creators of these comics. And there's this one creator, his name's Rob Liefeld. And he's a very hated guy. He's a loved guy and he's a hated guy. He's the guy who created Deadpool, for example. And there's people just can't think he's a big hack, and they can't. And his artwork is just like, if you look at it, there's no like, he's breaking every rule possible. And this one guy said, the reason why he has such rabid fans and rabid haters is because his artwork isn't perfect, because it's so exaggerated and imperfect. And he said this very interesting thing. He said, your mistakes are what your style is. And so I think that applies directly to email. And no, people do not have to take on any specific, they should be their own person. I would say this, take your personality and ratchet it up 3 notches. I call it the mask of influence in one of my books, the Super Villains of Persuasion book I wrote. And it's based on this series of interviews I saw on Netflix many years ago, where they were interviewing these blockbuster movie directors. And one of them was John Singleton, the late John Singleton. He's the guy that directed Boys in the Hood. And he was talking about, he goes, he knew Tupac and he knew Ice Cube and all that. And he goes, you guys would be surprised. They're not as flamboyant as you think. They just kind of ratcheted up their personality a few notches, right? And I have found that if you take the negative aspects of your personality, what people perceive as negative, kind of exaggerate it a little bit, it does. It definitely gives you a style and a flair, and it's going to make not everybody like you, but it's going to make, you're going to have a nice, good polarity going. And those who do like you are going to like you a lot. Those who hate you are still going to stick around just to see how much more they can hate you. And I mean, it's a beautiful thing when it happens. You're getting all this engagement. Every time a troll or a hater or someone who snarks at you or tries to correct you, every time they reply to your email, they're just helping you get better deliverability. Because Gmail and Hotmail and all, they're saying, oh, this is a real person. I mean, there's so many benefits to this.
Is it kind of like turning yourself on when you're at a social event or performing? Like, you just have to kind of be a higher version of yourself that you normally are with like a higher energy, like ratchet it up, as you would say?
I think you used the perfect word, performance. I do think it's a performance.
Okay.
Like, when Rush Limbaugh used to go on the air, he'd jump up, he prepares his mind, he starts tapping, he hears the music come on, he just starts talking, but it's a performance. He was an entertainer, first and foremost. Yes. I think it helps to study and I'm not trying to give people too much to think about here. This is just like if they want. Okay, this is not
deep. You're in deep, Ben. You're in deep.
I'm not trying, if you're an accountant watching, you don't have to do all that. Okay, don't worry about it, man. But it helps to study method actors because they are really good at this. It just like snapping in, but you get to create your own character based on yourself. You don't have to become a chicken or something. They would teach them to pretend you're a chicken. What would you do? There's a story, Marlon Brando, like that, his first acting class, where the teacher said, okay, everybody, bombs are about to fall through the sky and you're a chicken. What do you do? And everybody starts running around balking and he just sits down and they go, what are you doing? He goes, I'm laying an egg. I'm a chicken. What do I know about bombs? But that's the mindset, right? You get to be you. You get to be yourself. And just ratchet it up a few notches, and don't be worried about impressing anybody. Write legibly. Okay, I'm not saying to go crazy, but don't be obsessed with, am I a good writer or not? Because that's not what they're doing. They're not. They're connecting with you, the human being.
Okay, Ben, you're a wealth of information with this stuff. It's really interesting to hear kind of the psychology behind this stuff. If somebody wants to check you out, where's the best place to do so?
Best thing to do is go to bensettle.com and just join my email list. And you'll get a free issue of my email players newsletter as a PDF. It's a print newsletter, but I give the first issue as a PDF just for joining the list. It's free. I think there's like 24 ways in there to make more sales with email. It's absolute no-brainer to go through it and see if what I say works or not for you. And that's bensettle.com.
bensettle.com. Okay. And actually one thing I did want to ask you about is AI. You did bring it up a few times.
Yeah.
What's your overall thinking about it?
Well, I think that as anything that requires humanity, it's going to backfire on people. But it's very useful for things that don't require humanity. So crunching data, looking up facts, looking things up. I know people use it for brainstorming and all that. I just don't have that problem. Like, as you can tell, I have more ideas than I can even keep up with myself. And I'm a bigger fan of brainstorming with the market in the list. That's how you're going to, the AI knows nothing about your list that you know, and they don't know your market. And, just as a writer, I can just tell you, man, the real good stuff doesn't come from the ideas. It comes from getting everything on a page in the editing phase. And it cannot connect your experiences of your life. There's going to be some things you can only remember and bring to the forefront by sitting down and writing it. There's a connection between our hands and our brains. So that's my opinion. I don't care if people use it or not. I get accused of being against it. I'm not against it. I just see it for what it is. And I think it's a bubble. I think it'll pop. I think that there's already a lot of holes in the whole narrative pushing it. It's not going to be easy, cheap, and free forever. What were they saying that they spend like $10 million a year just because people are saying thank you?
Yeah.
That can't last. It's already dumbing people down. There was just a big study on this that people who rely on it can't think anymore. Like it's a problem now. It's like going to become a problem. So there are people who use it wisely. There are people who use it, and that's fine. But my overall opinion is people got to understand this is a gold rush phase, a mad dash phase that every technology goes through. And pretty much anyone talking about it, including me, is full of shit. Just wait until wait till the dust settles, and then you'll see what is legitimate, what's not. We saw it with the internet. We saw it with Google. We saw it with crypto. We saw it with social media. It'll be no different with this. And it's okay. Whatever ends up being there, it'll be a very useful tool. But there's so much hype and there's such a narrative pushing it, corporate narrative especially, that I'm a little dubious of it. Just as an options trader, I'm very dubious of all the technology companies right now because there's so much dumb money funding it that they have to keep promoting certain things just so people keep sending it money, which is no different than any other technology. This is expected. It's not good or bad. It just is what it is. I think you could look at the .com crash. It was the same thing with the internet. It didn't mean the internet couldn't be used to sell with, but remember all the dumb money pouring into the internet at that time and sock puppet level advertising. People were tracking hits on websites and not sales, and they weren't even getting many hits, and it all just kind of crashed. And then for a couple of years, it was like, okay, how do you actually use this thing? And I think it'll be the same with this.
So how would you rely on it? Like, would you use it to help edit any of your stuff, or no, you don't want to touch it?
I wouldn't. I do my own editing because when I'm editing, I'll take stuff from page 10 and realize it really belongs on page 3. And then I'll rewrite stuff on page 4 to match that. Like, to me, it's, the editing is where it's at. The last novel I wrote, I remember having this discussion. It wasn't the writing, it was the editing stage is what I needed. I needed to think through it and actually write it, delete stuff, play around with stuff. The editing stage is a very human thing. It really is. If you don't look at it as just getting rid of bad grammar and spelling, you could do that. Absolutely. Like if you wanted to get rid of bad spelling, I was probably great for that. As a proofreader. But the real editing, they say movies aren't really shot; they're edited. And when you see the stories behind how movies have been made, I don't see how an artificial intelligence could do that. I think it could help you move stuff around, but you're the one who has to go in there and actually figure it out. And that's from doing the work. So that's my opinion.
It is a little freaky that I could go to chat and be like, write me a 4-page marketing campaign in a Ben Settle email style about being an accountant that is solving Ben Settle's email clients' issues with the IRS. And it'll do it. And it's pretty good, Ben. It's pretty good. It is a little freaky to me.
I've had people show me that, but I see so many problems with it.
Okay.
Because it's not, first of all, it's not copying anything I do. I've had people show it to me, as you can imagine. I've had many people reply to me, look what I did. And I'm like, dude, this is the most soulless stuff. Like, you're missing the point of how bullets work. It's like, you got to fascinate and intrigue and there's drama. And it's all missing. It's just mechanical. Got it. And you know what I mean? It's very mechanical. And it will fool certain people for now. But when everybody's doing it and they're all trying to, to me, man, I see a cliff. And I think people should not be dependent on it. Use it for what it is, absolutely. But there are people absolutely dependent on it. They're outsourcing their thinking to it. And that, I think, is where it becomes a problem. And why would you want to be like me anyway? Like, you should be you, right? You should be in your style. It should be in your personality, your thought patterns. I'm not out there. I wouldn't try to tell it to sound like anyone else but me. If I was you, Yeah.
So I guess to go back to what you said, it's for things that don't need the humanity in it.
I think so. I just don't see it doing. If you ask AI what it is, and I don't know if you've ever done that, but I've had conversations with Grok. It's very fun, by the way. It is a fun tool. I'm not going to say it's not fun.
Yeah.
It'll admit I'm just a super calculator.
Yeah.
Great, but I'm not going to have my calculator talk to the IRS, right? I'm not going to have that calculator write my letter to the IRS if they screw something up or I have to fight an audit, right? So use it for what it is, but I'm not going to balance my checkbook without the damn calculator either. So there is a use for it. And I think just for that.
It is interesting. Like, I remember growing up in elementary school, you do the math by hand, you do the long division on the piece of paper. It's like you get a much deeper understanding of things, but then eventually you just start using a calculator. And it's like you forget your times tables. And if you ask me what 7 times 9 is, I couldn't maybe tell you right off the bat like I could when I was in grade 4, right? Because
I think I think we're all privy to that. And I've experienced that myself. I don't think it's a good thing.
Yeah. A big one I've noticed just being younger is I've grown up, by the time I was driving, I was using GPS pretty much right from the get-go. Right. So my parents could tell you where exactly in Toronto, down Dufferin, go to Keele, to Eglinton, to this, to that, to West on the 410. And I don't know that. I plug it into my GPS. It's like, I couldn't tell you how I got there. Like, you turn off that thinking.
And what happens when the GPS fails? It's like it backs you into like the ghetto or something. And you're like, shit.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's happened to me a couple of times. So, I remember, I'm probably older than you. And I used to have this giant Rand McNally map in my car, a book of every state. And but I prefer the GPS, honestly, way easier. So, like I said, they're all useful tools, but there becomes a problem if you outsource your thinking to it and humanity to it. That's where I see a problem.
Yeah, no, I totally see your point. And that's great to hear, man, from somebody so deep in this world that if you feel like, okay, we're still safe, there's still writing to be done, there's still humanity, then that's a good feeling, man.
Well, I think the humans are going to be the people who have humanity are going to just clean up in the next 10 years. I think it'll be like, I've seen the movie Idiocracy. I think it's headed that way. It's like, there's going to be it's not haves and have-nots. It's going to be people who can think autonomously and those who can't. And that's look, it's all predictions. Who knows? I could be wrong, but we'll see.
Geez, that's scary. No, I can totally see that happening. I gotta maybe tone down my AI use a little bit.
Well, writing is good for your brain. Like, in fact, ideally we would be writing by hand, but I don't think slow enough to do that. I have to type.
Right? What I have found chat to be cool is as a tool for self-reflection, almost like journaling, and having it kind of synthesize your thoughts almost back to you. And I guess where it could get dangerous is where you ask it to do your thinking and make your decisions for you. But what I do find it's good at is picking up on cues through your writing and the conversation back to it and being like, well, you kind of already know the answer. It's kind of this. And you're like, God damn, you're right, it is. And it's like kind of nice to have the thing tell you back, kind of here's what you're thinking. Like it synthesizes everything for you. Like it's I think a powerful self-reflection tool, but that's just one little niche thing.
I don't doubt that. I would just rather take a walk.
Yeah, fair.
So it's funny because, like I said, on my list, this is an engagement farm right now because like half the people agree with me and the other half don't.
Got it.
And so I hear both sides, and I don't like What I do is make fun of the people who worship it like it's a digital god, right? Like some people are really like they're literally creating AI girlfriends now. There was just a CBS or something. I just saw the video where this guy was like, he has a relationship with his phone basically, and his wife, she's like, they asked him, well, if you had to choose between the two, he goes, well, I think I'd pick the phone. I don't know, man. I don't know what to say.
Oh my God. Yeah.
But that was a mainstream news thing. So, we'll see.
Yeah. Yeah. As soon as I talk to Chad a little bit, I'm like, I can see where this is going in the dating world real quick for some.
Gary Vee was talking about that too. He thinks everyone's going to there's going to be a bunch of basically digital marriages in 20 years, which, that's not good. This has to, even if it is all true, I think it should be resisted for the sake of humanity,
Yes.
We don't want Terminator, or we don't even want weird science. Okay. We just want, you want humanity. Humanity is a good thing. So in my opinion.
Yes. Agreed. Okay. Ben, sorry. One more time. I'm glad I asked you about the AI. One more time where people can find you.
bensettle.com. You can get on my list there if you want to get on there.
Okay, Ben, it's been a real honor talking to you. Thank you. We all really enjoy your emails in the office and have been following for quite a while. So we appreciate the work you're putting out, and you've built quite a world that we've entered in. So thank you for that.
Thank you for having me on. I appreciate it.